Welcome to Reality After Show covering MTV's The Challenge, Season 39, Episode 10, Feeling Used. I'm your host, Alex Trias, always joined by my ride or die, Dan Montchal. Dan, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. And I know a common theme over, let's say, our past few podcasts is be ranting on the spoiler accounts. Well, I got it again, but this has nothing to do with the spoiler accounts this time. The reason I was spoiled this time was because of MTV's The Challenge's own Instagram page. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen out there. If not, every week, I want to say right around Monday or Tuesday, there's a video of it's Darrell and Cara. They're recording. It's just their reaction to the elimination. And they give their commentary and talk about it, yada, yada, yada. And I've watched most of them, but after going off of last week's episode, I really wanted to watch it because we know Cara's opinions on Tori, which, to be fair, Cara delivered. The first thing she said was A, Tori wouldn't be a champ had she been in the house that season. And B, she said that if she definitely wanted to go in elimination against Tori, and if she had her pick, it would be pole wrestle or hall brawl were the two that she threw out there. But anyway, so I'm watching this and as it goes, and so you see Tori comes in, she pulls out at the draw, and she gets Melissa. Well, what does MTV's own graphics put up right there? Kyland versus Darrell. So just spoiled this episode for me of who was going into elimination because MTV themselves had some intern piece together this footage and screwed it up. Now, you can go back now and watch it and it's corrected. You don't have that. But I happened to just be on Instagram like within 15 minutes of when it posted. And so I saw it was there. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. MTV spoiled the next episode for me?
Truly. But, you know, it shouldn't be surprising. The only thing that was surprising is that it was Darrell coming out. Because for me, I watched it on DVR last week. I didn't have the next time on. So I didn't actually know who was coming out. But we all knew it was going to be a guy's day.
Yes.
We knew that one of Kyland or Horacio were going to be put in. I'm not surprised by anything of this episode. In fact, this just confirms more of the same frustrations that I have with the people on the outer edges of this core alliance. So let's get into it.
I completely agree with that. It would have been way more shocking had it been like a J or someone's name like that popped up, because then it would have been like, whoa, what? But and then I guess the spoiler would have been either it was a pair elimination and someone went after him specifically, which up to this point, you wouldn't see that because maybe moving forward, it's possible. It would have thought, okay, someone pulled the chaos, but still, you're right. It was Kyland. We saw those breadcrumbs from the past few episodes, so not all that surprising.
Right. My issue is, so we'll let's get into the episode. And I'll bring it up as we go along because it's sort of sprinkled throughout the episode. So, Kyland and Horacio both know that they need to win to stay in if they are from the guy's side. We then get a confessional from Colleen, who also realizes she needs to win in order to stay if it's a girls' day, which you won't have 3 girls' days in a row. So you're fine there.
Is Colleen coming on strong these past few episodes? Not strong, but at least a presence. Like
yes.
Which I'm happy about.
Anything is strong if you base it off the first 7 episodes where she's not there.
Fair.
She gets one confessional in an episode saying these people are playing the game wrong. And then so this is the first step of people that are on the outside of the alliance realizing they're on the outside of the alliance, and their motivation now is instead of going and attack the core, they want to attack the other outside of the alliance. So, like, for all intents and purposes, they may see Mariah as still within this core. But, like, they're purposely targeting Mariah instead of targeting Michelle, Nerys, Jay, Olivia. Like, the actual core that they say and articulate in the episodes, they're not looking at them. They're looking at Mariah because she's playing both sides. And when I go and check my notes on with this cast of 16 players left, and Mariah is playing both sides by being in the American Alliance with some tag-ons of 13 people, and then checks notes, hooking up with James, and likes Zara because James is working with Zara. So two people in a game construct where the minority has no chance of success at all unless they are all on a team with one or two people of the majority. But yeah, let's say she's playing both sides.
Agreed. And even like, I don't get why that's big of a deal. Why can't she be friends with Zara? And if there are other options that are fringe, want to target them? Because as we've seen throughout this challenge, we haven't gotten a lot of good character moments from Zara, but we have seen that depending upon what the daily could be, she has a good shot at winning. She is a strong competitor. So if Mariah wants to buddy up to her a little bit, thinking, hey, when we go to a pairs, if Zara has a good teammate, there's a solid chance she could win. I want to be in her good graces. What's wrong with that?
Mariah's getting punished for thinking individually, but like the brunt of it, and this is why like big alliances are very good for the people that are actually in control of the big alliances. Everyone who's in charge of the big alliance is playing self-interestly. Like with self-interest in mind, they are creating this conglomerate that creates a hive mind, but it only affects the host, the queen bee, like all that stuff. But the object is as soon as someone on the periphery of that group starts thinking of their own self-interest, they get everybody else on the outside to start attacking that person. It's like, it's like if there's a virus in your body, the body sends all the white blood cells to go and attack it, eliminate it. So
was that a Drew-like analogy for you? That's great, Alex.
Brother, that wasn't some Socrates philosophical saying, but I'll try to keep it low on the analogies. But you get the point. Is you have a big alliance. As soon as someone that's like semi in the alliance starts thinking of their own self-interest of like, well, I want to win the money, suddenly that's a big no-no, and everyone's like, we get to Michelle and Mariah having this conversation. Michelle being like, I don't think James is good for your game emotionally. Like, really, Michelle really is saying, I don't like James being in here because it takes your loyalty to me and splits it.
Which you see like throughout this episode is that Michelle is like, Jay says he's the eye of the storm. He's not. It's Michelle's that's the eye of the storm. But it's going to be really interested to see how she moves forward from here, because at this point, outside of, like you mentioned, 3 of the 13 people, they all think that they're Michelle's number 1 or 2, between guys and girls. And I don't see how she keeps moving this way throughout the game and keeping her hands clean without really pissing some people off.
No, and she's going to piss people off. So as like we're seeing Jay pissing off people now for truly exposing himself because his silence speaks volumes. And, I also would recommend not criticizing it a showmance to the showmance's face. But, to each their own. To each their own. But yeah, so Mariah's just like, she's getting numb to this whole Bananas thing. And you know what? I am too. Like, I'm a Bananas fan. I don't need to hear this every episode. This storyline fucking sucks. Like, it's not even entertaining. It's not dramatic. Like, you're not getting anything out of it that you think you were going to get out of it. Like, it's really just, hey, everyone, Mariah's still cheating on Bananas, even though they weren't an exclusive couple. Like, we get it. I don't need to see it anymore.
No, it's just beating a dead horse, and it'd be different. Maybe you think, oh, there's going to be this ultimate payoff when Bananas comes out. Now, the cast at this point doesn't know that he's not coming, but us as viewers, we know he's not coming. So why we keep making this an emphasis every episode, I don't know. It's just old at this point.
And honestly, I wonder if this is MTV's like semi-revenge on Bananas telling them that he couldn't go.
It very well could
like
be.
Bananas didn't want this to become a storyline, and Murray said, "Well, F it, we're still gonna make it a storyline with or without you."
Yeah, that very well could be. I think it's dumb, but hey, they
Yeah.
don't always make the great decisions. So
If anything, if this is them trying to say like, oh, like Mariah's like a heel, like one of the villains of the show. Like, if anything, it makes me more sympathetic to her. Like,
100.
it's like I see this girl as like normal in a cast of people that really grew in through reality television in one way or another, and you have this girl having just normal thoughts, and now she's gonna be like not playing this like super nice political game because now she's gonna have beef with people who keep bringing up that she's fucking James.
Yeah, it's old, but whatever. I'm sure
I
this
like
won't
it.
be.
I think it's helping make Mariah like an actual character on the show, which should help her be cast in the future because I can see a ton of rivals for her moving forward. But she's sort of just like of the mindset of James is good for her game. So it doesn't matter what this alliance says. And she said on her social media too, she's like, sure, we're talking about me and Michelle being number one. I know for a fact I'm not actually Michelle's number one. And James gives me information. Anything that James gets in this game comes back to me. That's valuable. If James wins a competition, he's not going to say my name. That's valuable. Like
And
there's
protecting other people that she wants to protect as well.
right. And like I like the fact that she's shown, especially in this episode, of not being afraid to play the game. Like she's such a contrast to James and to Ed, who are focal points in this episode, who were like, I don't need the politic. My actions should clearly show where I'm aligned. So why would I politic?
Ed, I have more to say about Ed than I think the show has to say about Ed, but we'll wait till those moments come up later.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
So, because we'll keep going back into the people on the outside need to realize they shouldn't be as comfortable as they are. So we get a brief conversation of Jay, Asaf, Colleen, and Berna. And they're all talking about like, well, we now have to constantly plan for if it's a girl day or a guy day for every daily. I'm like, you thought like this should have always been the mindset. As soon as you realize this is how it's going to go, you can't always just expect formulaic guy, girl, guy, girl, guy, girl. Like they do switch it up. It has happened in the past. So like good on them for figuring out at the halfway point of the game that you need to actually strategize for both types of outcomes. Maybe there's the reason why they're not champions. But Asaf is just like, well, guys, I'm going to be so honest. I just want Kyland gone because he spoke bad about my mom. He didn't talk bad about his mom, by the way, if everyone remembers.
I was just happy that this was probably the most we really heard of Asaf this episode after the past few.
No, and honestly, he does have a funny confessional later on regarding Berna. I will give him that. Does it overstay its welcome? Yes, but it was funny at the time.
No, that makes sense.
But like Colleen is sort of saying like, we really emphasizing, well, if it's a girl's day, like what are we doing? If it's a guy's day, what are we doing? Like, well, we'll just put in kindly, like, but what about the House vote? Like Colleen's now like fully wired into the game of just like make the math make sense, sort of like, and obviously she's in self-preservation mode, like she's back in her Moline ways. And Berna's sort of just like I get it. Like she feels bad because she's on the bottom. And again, like I wish Berna would hear herself in confessional and also see how she's just acting herself throughout this episode and be like, I am Colleen. And because she's like, if I didn't have the friendships with Jay and Michelle, more importantly, Michelle, I would be in Colleen's position. So she sort of uses that to then confront Michelle and be like, I want you to shoot straight with me. Am I actually a real alliance with you, or am I just a number? Because if I'm just a number, then I'm just going to go solo because I don't like any of these people. And these people only tolerate me because they like you, not because they like me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Berna she has a really interesting arc this season.
Right?
I can't get a good read because later in the episode you see, it's when Olivia and Michelle are talking saying, hey, no, like I really didn't like Berna, but then you vouching for her and getting to talk to her, like I do see the good qualities that you do. But then it's immediately followed by Berna, just losing her shit, and it's just all over the place. So I don't know entirely how to feel about it.
Like it's obvious because like you also saw if you follow people on social media this past week, like Berna's about to do All Stars for
Survivor
the
Turkey.
Survivor Turkey, and Michelle, Olivia, Nerys, like a lot of the girls were like sending out like, hey, wish her a lot of support. So like they are on good terms after the fact, but like she just seems like such like she probably comes across as like outside the game, she's a lovely person and a very good friend, and we really enjoy your company type of person. But in this game, it feels like every type of insecurity comes out, which is fair. Like in these type of games where your mind gets played with constantly, like you're gonna have insecurity, you're gonna have doubts, but it's just like how do you go about it? I like the fact that she's messy, even if it's annoying at times, just because it's something different. But if I'm Michelle, like in this game, like I would be hurt too. Like I'm at my wit's end here. Like, why are you attacking me because I'm the one who's helping you? Like, I am your friend, but this is also a game where I need to talk to more than just one person, and I have a lot of plates spinning right now.
Berna has a little bit of and in no means am I saying this is a negative term, especially with what we know outside the show, but a little bit of like the Camilla in her,
I
where
knew
for the
that's where you're
most
going.
part, a lot of people like Camilla, but it was Camilla when she drank that she became intolerable. And with Berna, it isn't when she drinks, but it's when she feels a little bit insecure that's where you get that side of her that's coming out that is really can become intolerable to work with, because at that point there is no saying anything to Berna that eases her mind at the time. You almost just need to let her go through her go off process, give her time to kind of settle back in and regroup, and then you can have a normal conversation with her.
Yeah, and I think the issue, and I think why these emotions are coming now or being shown now and look a little more volatile, a little more extreme, than you're like, why is this girl being so loud and like pressed over what seems to be nothing? And I think it's because she's starting to see the writing on the wall, as we've been saying on the podcast. It's like the outside numbers are almost extinct. They're
Mm-hmm.
almost gone, especially from the girls' side. Like they're already having to hit Kyland. Like you have Zara, and then like a couple of the outside girls are looking at Mariah, but that's only two people. You have Raven in the mix, but like Raven's consistently winning the dailies, so
Yeah.
like at some point your name's gonna be said, and like you start looking at the hierarchy, and I feel like she's just seeing this like, well, Michelle talks the most game with Nerys, with Olivia, with Mariah, with like not with me. She talks about how much she likes me. We talk about other stuff, but she's not talking game with me. And now I feel like Colleen really pushing this like narrative also like is pushing those insecurities into Berna, which are rightful insecurities to have as us knowing it from the outside.
Well, I think it's also looking at it because, you want to be on good terms with everyone. Michelle wants to be on good terms
Right.
with Berna here. But I think Berna's also accurate, not just realizing that she's out, but you think about it when you're not going into competitions and you're not strategizing for, okay, who's going to be the house vote and things like that. It does become pretty evident of who do you like the most in the house. That's on these off days or we're not having to strategize. Who are you spending the most time with? And if Michelle's constantly with that core alliance or, the ride or die girls alliance plus Jay, it does speak volumes because that's clearly showing to everyone that's who Michelle is most comfortable with in the house.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like Berna says it best to wrap up the segment is you need to talk game, not just how much you like me as a person. And that is true in terms of like just how you build alliances and stuff like that. You can have your friendships, and obviously when you have your friends in a game, things get more messier because they may not be your best options for a game. But you still have to manage them. And you still have to manage them beyond just the personal side of I still like you. We're still good. We're still good outside of this. You need to bring something to the table to them in terms of games so that they feel like there's more than just, oh, they're only keeping me along because they don't want to hurt my feelings.
Yep.
Which I think is what ultimately drives that blow up later in the episode. It's like you're just being pleasant with me so that I don't go crazy on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely right.
But that brings us to Ed and martial arts class with Emmanuel and Zara. He wants to buy a house for his girlfriend and his 7-year-old, I assume, stepson.
That's what it seems like.
But could be his son. I don't know.
Well, just how he worded it, he said her son, not like my son or our son. So I'm assuming it'd be more, he's like the stepfather in that situation.
And he says, like, outside of this like game, I am a bold person. Like, and then points at his shirt to show that he's bold. Okay. Moving past that. But he says in this game, it doesn't really require him to be bold. Like, he's in this big group with a lot of people who do like him outside the show. So he doesn't have an issue of playing back and sort of just camouflaging himself amongst the masses.
Which this is where I hate to make this comparison because I like Ed. I know you like Ed. But him just playing this type of game, to me, it's very Dario-esque, which is someone I never thought I'd make a comparison to. Ooh. But it's what he's doing. I mean, you look at like Dario on Dirty 30.
You're right.
He was in with like the vets, and he's like, oh, I don't need to worry about it, until it was like, oh, wait, I'm on the bottom, and there's really nothing he can do about it.
And my bigger issue with him and why I feel like this could be like the last time we see him is he's not talking strategy. He's not talking game with people. He's being a nice personality to them, like a good friend, very social, but he's not talking strategy. He's not talking about the game. He's not letting people know within his alliance. Like, you have Corey later in this episode going like, well, obviously the easy vote should be James. And like, even though me and Ed don't talk, he's in my alliance. And there's an issue with that statement.
Because if you just think of, we haven't seen Ed a lot this season, but if you just want to think, all right, 3 Ed moments from the season, the ones that come to mind would be, he's not creating it. It would be the biker chicks moment with Melissa and Big T, where
the bribery moment.
Yeah, the bribery moment with Big T, where both of those are, hey, Ed's there, and it's more of other people were making that moment for him. And then he had the nice Aquaman moment in the one challenge where he got to show off that he was a good swimmer. But it's like, that's been it as far as Ed's concerned, which is a big problem. I get that he wants to play it safe, but he's playing this game that it's like, Ed, like, buddy, like, you better win because you were doing nothing to show us that you should come back a third time.
Right. Like, if he wins, he could go in the way of Jennifer West and never show up again. But they also gave what's his name 3 chances.
Nam.
There you go. I totally blanked on his name.
That's
how insignificant he is.
I assume that's where you were going, but I wasn't even positive because I guess it was 3. I don't know.
It was technically 3.
All right, sweet.
Thank God for that girl who quit on him. His ride or die that never knew he was even a person.
Can't even remember who that was.
Exactly. Anyway, so that moves us to the daily. The daily is called Skyball. You're in teams of 8, 4 guys, 4 girls that were randomly assigned. Do you think they used the perfectly random, randomly perfect algorithm?
I'd prefer that to the box that TJ just brings out with like the 2 suitcases, but who knows?
Well, I found it interesting before I lists like what the actual challenge is. Like you have the teams made, and really you have like all the vulnerable girls outside of Berna on one team, and then you have the main two targets for the guys on the other team, and then you have Horacio as a name on orange. So I'm like, how random is it where you're just like, oh well, if it happened to be a girl day, oh that would suck to be the core alliance of girls and Berna.
Yeah,
And
come
then
on,
for the
switch it up. Bring out Laurel, TJ. Just
yeah,
give Darrell an extra, week of vacation, and then the moment was right there. But no, we can't have chaos. We can't have true chaos. We just want this controlled version of chaos.
see what I would find more fun to do is if like maybe like randomly assign a captain, but the other captain is the person who just won the elimination, and have them pick teams, because you still have like what I like about that is sure you could stack the deck, but you also have to show your cards in the process of who am I prioritizing, who am I going to try to keep safe, because obviously I'm trying to win.
Yeah. The one thing that I would like them to bring back, and the most common variation that we used to see, going back in the challenge, was winners from the previous daily got to pick the order, like pick the teams. I'd love to see something like that coming in, where either winning the daily or going down and winning elimination gave you some power, whether it was picking an order, picking teams, something that gave them, just rewarding them for either winning a daily or an elimination.
Absolutely. But in terms of this daily, like I said, it's called Skyball. Half the team is in a sphere that's like held up by a rig. And once let go will spin, and you will never see me do that part of the challenge. I'm staying on the ground. Spinning is not my friend. And that sphere will be spinning, and it's locked until the people on the bottom race to the bottom of the pyramid, complete a puzzle that will release a secret word for you to unlock the door, for then the people in the sphere to throw all the balls in that sphere out. Then the people on the ground have to retrieve all those balls and put it into the pyramid. And whoever receives and gets all their balls into the pyramid first wins the daily. And as you can see, like the one thing that was interesting with this was the fact that while we're at 16 people, by splitting it into two teams, suddenly the numbers get a lot more thin. So even if you had like someone on your team that maybe you wanted to throw into elimination, you personally are more incentivized to win, because especially with even numbers of guys and girls, even though you should assume it's a guy's day because 2 girls in a row, you want to win because the options are 4. And then even if you're not picked by the winning team, then that option becomes a 3. And even if you don't get picked there, if the challenger pulls the gauntlet, like the mace, you still have a 25% chance of going in, which is greater than any of the odds have been previously.
Agreed. Yep.
So we have the orange team, and that's Emmanuel, Zara, Horacio, Asaf, Mariah, Colleen, Raven, and Jay. Blue is Kyland, Michelle, Nerys, James, Corey, Ed, Berna, and Olivia. Guess what? Did you know that the secret phase was going to be chaos?
Who would have thunk it?
Like, if I was the people in the sphere and I saw it was going to be a 5-letter word, I personally think, and I think Michelle probably was like saying it somewhat in like one of the like snippets of like it's going to be chaos. Like, I would have already preset the locks to chaos.
Yeah,
and
that
then
way
as soon as say like you were given the green light, just like immediately just like snap it off and start throwing instead of like, okay, now we can start unless you were told you can't touch it.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I don't get why they decided to do the secret phrase. Just make it some type of number formula.
Yeah, make it a combination.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Maybe. You know what? Scratch that. This is the challenge. We can't assume anything.
That's very true.
They don't do real math. They do it as if you're reading, just left to right.
Well, math's hard for some people.
I mean, to be fair, like yeah, I I was running like challenges and stuff for like my friends the other day that had math problems in it that were basic addition. And there was some struggle. There was some struggle in there. I was like, you know what? If they're struggling right now in an environment that is not intense, you know what? Maybe they should dumb it down for a show like The Challenge.
Well, yeah, especially, sure, there are some people that are very smart. Like we know Ed's an engineer, Colleen's a therapist, but a lot of these people, like,
Ed's a secret genius, as he tells us.
yeah, I don't think we got a lot of the sharpest tools in the shed down there. So let's try to make it as easy as possible. PJ's not trying to spend all day out there.
They really needed Corey Warden out there.
Corey, God bless your
how
puzzle
many
abilities,
triangles,
brother.
But anyway, we also learned that Norris is very used to having balls in her face since high school.
No comment.
And Orange wins. Like it was a weird edit because like it looked like at first, like, yeah, they were like, oh, Jay was going up the pyramid too quickly and didn't bring all the balls in time. Whereas like it looked like the blue team was like bringing all the balls in so it would be easier, but yet Orange just moved at a faster clip. Orange wins. I'm pretty sure this is like the third straight time that Raven and Zara have won the daily. I think they both won at least 4 times now in the daily. Yeah. So it's like you sort of want to be partnered with these two girls if you want to have a true chance at being safe each round.
You would think, but no one's going to think that.
No, they're on the bottom. I don't want to run against Zara in the finals. She runs on water.
Yeah, there's only 37 people left in the game. Like we can't get rid of her later.
No. We have to take the shot now. Anyway. So Orange wins, and basically, and I like that. You know what? We're seeing progress with Horacio. Is he getting what he wants? Is he getting what he wants? No. But we, at least through the edit, we are shown him actively bringing up the who won't you say? Let's just get it out of the way right now. And like you go across the line. And obviously Mariah's trying to create an agenda of not letting James be the initial vote. Because if he's not the initial vote, there's always an outside chance that you could get him out of being the nomination vote. So a lot of people are bringing up Ed. A lot of people bring up James. The only person who's not making an active opinion or voice heard is Jay. And you hear from Rossi, like, I was coming into this, like, Jay, Kyland were my guys. Like, we were all very close coming in, but seeing him being silent now when I need someone to back me up with trying to protect Kyland speaks volumes. So basically in a 7-1 vote, Kyland's the nominee, and you have Kyland also going like, Jay, I need to figure out who's going down. And when he figures out that like Jay was very silent, like, this speaks volumes.
Yeah, and maybe this just goes back to the fact that this is the first time in the challenge anyway that Jay's ever had any type of power, especially at this point in the game. And he just fumbles.
He's never lasted this long.
Yeah, that is true.
He's usually out by now.
Yeah, I did really like what Horacio said, because maybe it wasn't his line of thought, but my first thought was when he was going around is it seems really easy to say, hey, who won't you say, to see if you can come up with, a common name that way. But also you're making everyone show their cards a little bit more if there is some type of relationship that you weren't aware of, being like, oh, why wouldn't so-and-so say Ed? Like, I didn't realize they were that close. Like, so it does allow you to piece some information that way, going that route, rather than just saying, all right, who do you vote for of the 4 nominees?
Right. So Kyland's a vote. Kyland's always going to take it like a champ and just go like, you know what? I intend to have some of this money. So if I have to go down to sand and help actually keep this money, I'll do it. And, I'm every week now, I'm not saying he's a great player. I'll emphasize that he's not a great player. He's not a good player yet, but he had some good instincts about him that I feel like coming in with the right people could go pay off dividends for Kyland.
His stock is definitely on the rise. I've been really impressed with him over the past few episodes, which I even thought it was funny at the very beginning of the episode. He had the note from Melissa where it was just essentially calling him a robot.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing more of this human side from him and willing to go against the grain. And by no means, hear me just making all these comparisons. Am I saying that, Kyland's going to be the 7-time champ like Bananas? But I do see an interesting duo budding between him and Horacio that's a little bit more of the Bananas Leroy type role, where Kyland can kind of be that person that people are going after. But if he can make the right connections, he has that. And then he'd have the strong, lovable sidekick, which, for Bananas, it was Leroy. But Horacio can play that role perfectly.
Absolutely. Yeah, so he starts investigating when he gets back. And I think it was very astute of him to initially take Zara out because he accurately depicts her as someone who's sort of a free agent. It doesn't have really any ties outside of James. And so I should get an honest answer from her because what incentive does she have to lie? And she basically confirms what he suspected. And it was Horacio tried to protect you, but really a few people really brought your name up. Jay was silent, and then that sort of just became the name. So good job on Kyland there. And also good job on Corey this episode. This episode really showed that Corey really has bounced back from a few episodes ago with the whole, I think with Big T and Melissa out of the picture, it really helps solidify what he was going for, which is like, I will help get them out and show that I am loyal to the main players of the big alliance in Jay and in Michelle and the other girls. So now when it comes to, okay, I'm one of the 3 people that could be named, as long as I push the narrative and I push this narrative early to make it a James versus Ed vote, I've done enough goodwill that I should be back in their good graces and I shouldn't even be under consideration.
Yeah, and he's playing it smart. He's doing what James and Ed aren't doing, that you can tell he's constantly checking in, because this is a few episodes in a row now where there's a group in a room that it's with Jay, it's with Michelle, it's with, Nerys, whoever. Corey's always in that small group of 4 or 5, as they're talking things through what their next plan is. And so he's done a really good job of bouncing back, because normally when your name's thrown out there that early in the game, it keeps getting thrown out there. So say what you will about Corey and the mess that he put himself in, but he's done a good job of getting us out of it. Yep.
Like you risk being up there with James and Ed. You risk by playing that it's shown as playing too much. But when the other 2 are literally doing nothing, like, I'm going to take the person who has an active voice. Like Michelle says, like, Corey's a number, but also has a voice. You have just been a number, Ed. So maybe I do put you in because I am like, I do value Mariah as a friend and in this game. And do I let her keep this number 1? Just like all of us had these number 1s that weren't in the core, in the alliance, what have you. But yeah, so like we between this and Fruita Club, we have a lot of Kyland investigating, like continuing to get this idea that, okay, it's basically the house against me and Horacio. I have to be starting to find these other outlying pieces and create something else. I did like James' confessional is that he just expected to go in unless he suddenly got an American passport.
James is, I don't know if James will come back. Who knows? I'm not saying that he should, but he at least does have these small moments like every other episode or so. Like he definitely has grown on me a lot more since that his elimination against Chauncey.
No, you know they're trying to get him, Mariah, and Bananas on a season at the same time. I think he's on the list at this point. But like he's not trying, and that's the thing. It's like I don't like his philosophy of just expect the worst and then be pleasantly surprised if things don't go that way. It's like, no, but like, the worst may not happen if you actually like, quote unquote do the work. Yeah.
He was doing the work in the gym. Unfortunately, he did not do the work of noticing, his surroundings as he starts to talk about Ed, as Ed's on one of the machines behind him.
Well, I mean, let's talk about people not understanding their surroundings. You have that with him and Ryan. And I think at this point, Ryan's just like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So I don't care if Ed even shows up. And even with that, Ed's not even trying to go after James. He's trying to see if Corey can be an option, and essentially being told no by all the girls. But like still trying to let his intentions known so that they don't vote for him. And then you have Kyland, Horacio, and Jay come in, and I love Kylan actually having some humor here, being like, "Oh, Horacio's here so that I don't kill you." I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But actually, though, why didn't you stick up for me? And she's like, it's because you isolated yourself with Melissa. It's just like Nerys and Horacio.
What a horrible thing to say. Like,
Nerys was such a good ally until she decided she needed to sit on the couch with Horacio for 10 hours a day.
Going into this season, I obviously know that you are, we like Jay. We're Jay fans. This season it's not it. I don't think he's good in this season. It's really bad. And sure, the easy thing would be like, I no longer like Jay, which I'm not going to do that. I still like Jay. I just don't like him in the season. And the reason I'm going to blame for that is Astaf. He spent too much time, and that douchebaggery just rubbed off on him a little bit too much. And it's not your fault, Jay. We just need to get you away from Astaf.
Yeah, it's the rap songs. They ain't helping.
No, they're definitely not.
But my issue is more so, even though he's like doing well, like relatively, like not in danger, winning dailies, like still has like a core group. You see some of the messiness and sort of, in my opinion, the slip ups in his game that caused him to go out early every single other time he's played this game.
Mm-hmm. Which is really so if we're just looking at Jay, and we're take this season out of it, like this season's obviously going to go however it's going to go.
Like he's most likely getting to the end of this game.
Yeah, most likely. What I really worry about him is he's done nothing to, I guess, enhance his game moving forward with allies. Like Michelle's her own situation, and we'll have to see how that plays out. But you do see that she has, vet connections. She has connections with the ride or die girls. Like she's very, very well insulated. Where it's Jay, sure, he may have some of the girls on his side as of now, but going through, like, especially depending upon what the season formats are, he needs some of these guys on his side. And who does he have? Because moving forward, unless something drastic happens, he still isn't going to have any of the vets that he's never had in the seasons that he's been there. He had a good shot with like Horacio and Kyland, which are two of the people that you could see, hey, they're probably going to keep coming back. But he's isolating himself from them, pushing them away. So you think, okay, moving forward, probably not going to have either of those two. And all of the other guys that he's working with in this game may never come back again.
Yeah.
So it's like, Jay, I really hope this season goes well for you and you do as well as you possibly can, because I'd be hard pressed to find him coming back in a future season or two where he makes it to the halfway point again.
It'll be a struggle. It's like he's Team Young Buck without actually having the other pieces.
He doesn't have the Hunter and the Nelson.
And the Nelson. No, like he's just a core going like, I'm against the vets. And that can only last you for so long. Like you even see, like, while Corey still has like a rocky relationship with them, he's learned over the years and has been able to be successful. And it's like Jay sort of needs to look at that playbook and understand like what he needs to do for longevity within a season, and then knowing when to like make sort of these like more cutthroat moves. Like you don't need to be. And also I think there's this weird like complex that not just him, but this need of being in control of everything to also get like the screen time. You don't need to be the power player to be a compelling character. Like, I'm not saying be the underdog every single fucking time. You can be a part of the alliance and still like make TV and make these comebacks to future seasons without having to be the mastermind. I don't think he's the mastermind.
Well, and the other thing that he has is he's got to realize that, yes, he loves the challenge, and we know he's been a huge fan. But as you mentioned, Corey, when Corey was making these mistakes coming into the challenge, he was in his early 20s. He was 22, 23, 24. Like Jay, he's in his 30s. I'm pretty sure he's the same age as like a Jordan. And so it's like, you're unfortunate. It's not your fault, but because you weren't on an MTV show, you did Survivor, and then it was several years after that you got cast. You don't have that time to really keep making these same mistakes over and over again, because not only are you not ingratiating yourself to the vets for future seasons, but you're on a ticking clock that you can only do this for so long. And you're not going to be a CT or Bananas, coming back at 40 if you don't really start going deeper in this game and playing it well.
Yeah, absolutely. We sort of talked about the Berna side of thing at the club already, so I'm going to brush past that. We talked about Ed campaigning, so we'll go straight to nomination, where Kyland does. You're probably not familiar with this, Dan, but I feel like he sort of paid homage to Dan's funeral in Big Brother. He was a Big Brother fan as well, so and played it. So he's dressed in all black, and he asks them to stop putting him in Melissa's seat. And this is another coming of the Declaration of Independence from the British. It was interesting getting a Raven confessional saying like, "Oh, Kyland's so far behind the 8 ball and all that." I'm like, Raven, if keep winning these dailies, girl. Like, I love you, and like I think you're great for the show. But as soon as you don't win and it's a girl's day, you're going in.
Yeah, you're going to see how far behind you really are, which is unfortunate.
But she can talk. She's been winning these dailies, like, so she gets to have her peace, be safe every few rounds. She's doing fine. But ultimately, all of Mariah's plays to try to keep James safe, the deals that she made, and being called out for making these deals, which I'm like, pot me in the kettle here, with them being mad that Mariah's making deals. Well, what's an alliance if not making deals? And like, all she asks is, let me have my one person. He's helped us. He's allowed all of his allies to go. He's not a threat at the final. Just let me have him. And they all said no.
Yeah, it is interesting, because I wonder, do you think had there been a little bit of swap between Nerys and Mariah here, had the shoe been on the other foot, we think that Nerys isn't good enough that they would have listened to her and protected Horacio, or do you still think that she gets the same treatment? It's unfortunate that it just happened to Mariah here.
Let me think. So if we go back to the daily, if they had won the daily, Kyland would have voted for Asaf. But then outside of that, really they would have been picking between Emmanuel and Horacio. Mm-hmm. So it may have been a tight vote, but I feel like they would have all ended up picking Horacio.
Yeah, that's what Nerys I thought.
And Olivia. Nerys, Olivia, and Kyland wouldn't. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the rest would.
Yeah, because Berna wouldn't say Emmanuel.
And James probably wouldn't say Emmanuel either.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and Jay's not gonna be said. So that would have been an interesting vote. That would have been an interesting vote if Blue won. But we can't get nice things. But we do see, based off the vote, Corey has officially dug himself out of the hole. He was one of 3 names, gets 0 votes. And, going back to last week when Kyland called out people for not doing what they wanted, and then, Asaf's trying to clap back at him for voting with the majority or 2 weeks ago, to send Big T in. He votes for Ed along with James.
He does.
And doesn't hide within the majority.
Which I think is smart, because if Kyland is in this mindset of, hey, I'm going to come back regardless.
And I need numbers.
James is someone right there that we can scoop up. And especially if this keeps, isolating Mariah as it is too, that could be 2 potential numbers. That brings in Zara, and it could start to create another side. While they still wouldn't have the overall numbers, it'd make it a lot more interesting, especially, on future dailies, whether it be teams or pairs, how it ends up shaking out.
Right. So we lead this episode still at 16 people. So with Kyland coming back, he didn't say James' name. So maybe him and James can get something together. You now have Horacio there with him. Really, for the most part. You have Mariah through attachment with James, and most likely you can get a Zara through attachment, because if the right combinations of winning teams happens, suddenly you have some sway to take a shot at Jay, take a shot at a Michelle, an Olivia, what have you. And maybe now that these numbers start to get, if this all happens and the numbers start getting a little more even, Raven doesn't have this excuse anymore of having to stay loyal to these ride or die girls when they aren't going to stay loyal to her. So maybe a Raven flips. And suddenly a Colleen but Colleen wants Mariah out. So Colleen's still not seeing the bigger picture.
That's true.
Maybe Berna gets pissed off enough to go, but then you have Emmanuel keeping Berna in. So it's it'll still be uneven, but you could have some intrigue here. But let's go into the elimination. So Darrell comes out. He pulls Kyland's thing, but not before him also saying in confessional that neither of these guys look like champions. Look at James in his tights. He looks like he's more ready for Dancing with the Stars.
We've talked about this on Ride or Dies, where it was just we both love Darrell. He's probably never winning another season again outside of an All-Stars. But I love Darrell.
I love Darrell. I love him for his confessionals.
Good. And I wish he would have gotten a physical elimination. Now, I guess maybe not. I was
going to bring that. I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Kyland goes because everyone thinks that, I think the one thing that we were really robbed of let's go back to Invasion of the Champions, was that third elimination for the champs wasn't physical. Now, it was great because we saw CT absolutely, break that entire elimination. Not so fast. Yeah, he broke it. But I would have been interested to see it, because I honestly think had it been a straight physical elimination, he beat CT, because we know CT's history. We know the Bananas backpack, him beating up Davis, him beating up Adam. But I really think that Darrell, because he's so soft-spoken or whatever, you forget that he's probably the baddest mother effer on the challenge when it comes to that physical strength. Because you just look at, CT wailed on Davis and Adam, but they were still fine. Darrell did damage to Brad. Darrell is an accomplished boxer that can really fuck you up. So it would have been I would have loved to see Darrell in a headbanger.
So I will say though, that also was 20 years ago. He's still in great shape.
Agreed.
He is still in great shape right now. But he ain't in his prime anymore.
I get that.
And that's all the love in the world with Darrell. But I agree with you. This was not the competition to put Darrell in. It was sort of how I was either Kaz wasn't trying hard, or it just wasn't the right type of elimination for her. I'm surprised they didn't want to give Darrell a headbanger.
Like he took out Zach in Balls In. Like give him Balls In.
He took out Zach and Balls In. He had the ring in was it the Ruins or one of the gauntlets that
No, the ring against Danny Jameson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had that. I mean, then he
beast
took
competitor
out
Danny J.
All-time great. I love Danny Jameson. Not for any reason
as much as you like Derrick Henry.
No, Danny Jameson is my GOAT for how bad he is at this show. I would put him on every season. I get that he's old now, but he also had, Bananas in. No, I guess it was Bananas and Balls In. It was Zach and pole wrestle.
No, he. Oh yeah. It was. Pole wrestle with Zach, where he like backflipped him.
Yeah.
They talked about it on Zach's podcast, at least from the clip I saw, because I will not pay for the Patreon. No. But this is called Firewalker, and you're on a platform, elevated platform with 6 fireballs and a flamethrower. Light up all the fireballs, and this is a competition that requires a lot of footwork, leg endurance, and balance, because it's sort of like dancing in a way. Like you're trying to get this rhythm right with the platform as you're moving it around so that the bowls pop up right in the right spot at the right time for that flamethrower to hit and ignite it. The one thing of interest was you did sort of have a lot more people this time around actually rooting for Kyland to win and keep the money, as opposed to these last couple of rounds where they were all very blatantly rooting against Big T, against Melissa, for the champions to take their money away.
You made the point last week of being like, you called out Jay for being like, he has damn it, like when $10,000 is gone. And it's just like, Jay, you have these confessionals where you're just like, oh, I don't want to be the poorest shot. I need the poor. But then he comes in and he says he's actively rooting for Kyland to lose here. And it's like, Jay, you can't have it both ways. You either need to be okay with losing the 10 grand or you got to hope Kyland comes back. I don't play both sides of the fence.
Well, maybe if he didn't just play so horribly with how Kyland got in and then how he tried to cover it up with Kyland, maybe it would have been fine either way. Like, I feel like a lot of these players overall have this idea of like, oh, we need to take these people out, these outside players, because they're threats in the final. And then you look at who they're aligned with. I'm like, you're also aligned with a lot of people that will be very good in a final. So like, what's your actual priority here? Like, don't hide behind the fact that Kyland could be a beast in the final, Horacio could be a beast in the final, which it can. But like,
so can Emmanuel.
Yeah, Asaf could potentially be good at it. Like we don't know. But then like from the girls' side, like Olivia's right there. Mm-hmm. Olivia could have had Olivia and Horacio could have had a legitimate shot at winning that final if they don't have the malfunction and her almost breaking her face in half.
We've seen Nerys compete very well in her first season.
Right.
Well, she didn't make it to the final, but they had a lot of good dailies that she competed in, plus I think elimination or 2.
Right. So like you have people within your own alliance that are as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than these opposed threats, just because they happen to be on the outskirts of your alliance and you need an easy excuse to put them in. All I'm saying is like a big alliance only works until before the halfway point. You then need to have the smaller core come together and be like, okay, now we need to start fracturing this group and have them fight each other. It's because if you keep doing this hive mind, it may work for this one season. They may all get their way. Like, and I'm not going to eat crow on this because this is a results-oriented thing but let's see what happens on the next season that they come back.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're able to repeat that, then okay, they proved something. But the odds of them being able to run it back is small. As soon as you start bringing back these veterans that aren't champions still, that weren't invited to do this, as well as the champions into the mix.
And then you figure a few newbies as well that have never done it. Like, this is the only time that you're going to get a group like this that you can pull it off.
Exactly. This is Invasion of the Champions, where the champions actually never have any stake of potentially winning.
God, Nelson was running that in the beginning of the game.
Nelson almost won.
Well, if you listen to some of it, there's some theories out there that Nelson really did win. Not saying that I believe any of that, but there's some stuff out there.
There's always stuff out there. But Kyland wins. I was very happy for him for winning. Again, love Darrell. This wasn't the elimination for him.
No, and it wasn't quite that mean, but I still can think of being like, he still put him up on a platform. Like, was he still just being like, it isn't quite heights, but like, you bastards. Like,
we didn't hear shit from him.
Keep Darrell, keep his feet on the ground for elimination.
Yeah. So Darrell goes and he says essentially, winner attitude is like you win how you lose. So remember that. And
Ace off Emmanuel, douchebags.
Well, I will say, as they keep making these comments and then keep talking about champion, they keep showing a shot of Emmanuel.
I hate that. Please stop.
They immediately pan to him. They pan to one other person, but I didn't put a note down for who it was. So I can't remember, but I remember they showed Emmanuel as like Darrell was making those comments. And I hate that. I hate that I'm reading into this edit. But I hope that if he does win, he makes off like Jay West and never gets invited back again.
He can come back to have Jordan whoop him in a final. That would be.
Oh, you know what? That's the only way that it would happen is he would come and then they're like, "Hey, Jordan, we would love to have you on the season. Emmanuel will be there." And Jordan's like, "I'm already there."
Oh yeah, because he could have him do the same thing that he was doing with Turbo, where everyone is willing to admit that like War of the Worlds 1, probably the toughest final we've ever seen. But him coming in at Turbo being like, I wasn't there. Your championship doesn't count because you didn't beat me.
It's a COVID championship. It's the Disneyland championship. It don't mean shit. It's the play-in, or no, not the play-in, the in-season tournament for the NBA. That banner doesn't count.
So the one of the things that is really exciting is because this is 6 weeks now of having the champs come in, and we did have a few of the heavy hitters, but it's like take Brad up because I have no issue with Brad, but Brad just isn't a heavy hitter. And so you take 3 of the next 4 weeks, we're getting a CT, a Laurel, and a Kara. It's a pretty good lineup coming.
It's a good lineup. I'm very interested to see who gets pulled down. What do the people do? What type of competition is it? Where can the audience help? Because if a champion loses because everybody else is helping that person and not solely because that person did it, I ain't knocking it. I'm putting a loss with an asterisk there for the champion.
What would be crazy is if that's how someone won and say that it was specifically Jay or Michelle. And you'd be like, oh, you were so against that happening when it happened to you last season. You don't get to celebrate this win then. You just don't.
You don't get to. But that wraps up this episode. Everyone who was able to watch this live, I know we've been doing Sundays, but obviously with Sunday being Christmas Eve, Dan and I wanted to get this wrapped up early. So we did it today on Thursday. We might do the next episode around the same time as well, just because I'm sure both of us have plans for New Year's and would like to celebrate that. So thank you all for attending. If you're watching this right now, make sure to tune in tonight on E to watch the finale of House of Villains. Will Johnny Fairplay become the ultimate supervillain of America or history or whatever the title is that they're it's called? But tune in tonight to see the end. Or just bananas.
Because challenge podcast.
I know, but I have to put our Podfather first.
100%. Fair play first.
Yeah. So stay tuned. Become a patron at realitypatron.com for more inside information from Johnny and from Matt from their Q&A podcast, which really at this point, it's just all of the podcasters just shooting the shit. It's a fun time. They're finishing up Brains versus Brawn of the Australian Survivor rewind that they've been doing. And then in the future, you'll still have us covering the challenge on a weekly basis, as well as coming early in the new year will be the next Australian Survivor season of Titans versus Rebels. And I'm sure we will figure out how we're going to podcast about that as well. So stay tuned. Thank you for all your support. Dan, did I miss anything else?
No, I think you got it. And I guess the only thing that we'll add is if, you were watching along with us or just watching the season of Survivor season 45, me and Alex, as well as we're joined by Matt last night, and we did a very good podcast on that. I thought it was one of the best that we've done because we weren't going beat by beat. We were just talking about the finale in the season. So it was really great. So make sure to check that out. And yeah, Matt, Johnny, they get the little bit of the break because Survivor House of Villains has ended, but Alex and I never stop.
We're not allowed to stop. This is the challenge. There is no quitting the challenge. Yeah. So thank you all. Have a good holiday weekend, and we will be back next week. Cheers. We love you. See you soon.
See y'all.